The air coming from the vents of Chloe's old SUV was more hot breeze than cool air conditioning. Outside, the world was flat and endless, just dry bushes and red dirt under a huge, bright Texas sky. Inside, her friends were starting to get bored. Liam, Chloe's boyfriend, was usually full of energy. He loved finding forgotten places and exploring them, and he was telling scary stories about the area. Mia, who took amazing photos, was just looking at her phone, already tired of the long drive. Noah, the quietest of the group, stared out the window, sometimes saying something strange. They were supposed to go to Marfa, a cool art town, but Liam had seen something online about a shortcut, a secret road through old ranch land. "Real Texas, guys," he said, pointing to a small, dusty path that branched off the main road. "This goes right through the old Thorn Ranch. People say it's totally empty. People also say there's a huge, hairy monster in the woods, Liam," Mia said with a sigh. But even she didn't argue too much. Anything was better than more boring highway. The dirt path quickly got worse. It was bumpy and narrow, hidden by tall, thorny bushes. Dust flew up behind them like thick smoke. The last signs of people, broken fences, a rusty mailbox, looked very old, like they had been there for many, many years. The silence was deep, only broken by the sound of tires on gravel and the quiet buzzing of bugs. Then they saw it. Tucked away in a dip in the land, almost hidden by all the wild plants, was a building. It wasn't a normal ranch house. It was a big, messy collection of old wood and rusty metal put together badly. But the scariest thing was all the animal skulls and white bones nailed to the fences and hanging from the dead trees. They shone, stark white in the harsh sunlight, like a dark decoration. "Whoa," Liam whispered, his excitement gone. "That's more real than I thought." As Chloe slowly stopped the SUV, a faint, sweet, but very strange smell came through the open windows. It wasn't just dust or hot dirt. It was sweet, like old flowers, but under it was a bad metallic smell, like old, dry blood. Mia, who always had her camera ready, quickly took some pictures. "Creepy, but good for the video," she mumbled, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Suddenly, the engine coughed. Then with a final dying sound, it stopped completely. The silence after that was terrible. No more engine hum, no more fan. Just the buzz of flies and the distant cry of a crow. "Oh no, no, no," Chloe groaned, trying the key again. Nothing happened, not even a small sound. They tried to fix it, but the engine stayed dead. The sun started to go down, making the big Texas sky orange and dark purple. Shadows grew long, making the broken-down ranch look even more scary. The sweet metallic smell got stronger, And then a new sound came from the building, a faint, regular thump-thump, like something heavy being pulled across a rough floor. "Hello?" Liam called out, his voice a little too loud, a little shaky. The thumping stopped. The silence that followed felt heavy, like it was watching them. Then a single blurry shape came out from behind the main ranch house. It moved slowly, carefully. It was tall, with strange long parts, and it was hard to see clearly in the growing darkness because of the junk piled around the house. It looked like it was wearing something that moved oddly, not like cloth, but something uneven that rippled as it walked. And as it stopped at the edge of the open area, looking at them, a low, deep gurgle echoed through the still air. It was a sound that seemed to come from deep inside its body, like something choking, something taking a wet, heavy breath. This was not a person. It was the sound of a beast, or something much, much worse, that had just noticed them. The figure at the edge of the open area stood still, watching them. The low gurgle seemed to fill the hot, heavy air. Liam felt goosebumps pop up on his arms. "Maybe it's just a farmer," Mia whispered, trying to sound brave, but her voice shook. "Looking for his cows." As the last bit of sunlight left the sky, the figure started to move again, not towards them, but away, disappearing behind the main ranch house. The strange, regular thump-thump sound started again, quieter now, as if whatever it was dragging had been pulled inside. "Okay, new plan," Chloe said, fumbling with her phone. "We walk back to the main road. It can't be more than a few miles." She tried to sound confident, but her hands were shaking. Her phone, like everyone else's, showed no signal. Leaving the dead SUV, they started walking, dust kicking up with every nervous step. It got dark very fast. The animal skulls on the fences seemed to glow faintly in the dim light, their empty eyes watching them. The sweet metallic smell was much stronger now, like a thick, sick perfume sticking to their clothes. "I think I hear something," Noah mumbled, stopping suddenly. He was usually the one who noticed things first. From the ranch, a faint, sad whimpering sound drifted on the breeze. It sounded like a dog, hurting. Liam, even though he was getting really scared, felt like he had to help. "It's probably just a lost dog. We have to check. We can't leave an animal to suffer." Mia and Chloe looked at each other, not sure, but Noah was already turning back towards the ranch, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. As they got closer to the old buildings, the whimpering got louder. It became short, sharp barks, then a choked gasp. From inside the main ranch house, they heard a sickening squelch sound, followed by a heavy thud. Liam pushed open the protesting, creaky wooden door. Inside was a dark, messy room full of shadows and old, broken things. Rusted farm tools lay everywhere, covered in thick dust. And in the middle of the main room, lit by a single dim light bulb hanging from a worn wire, was something that made them freeze. A large, dirty dog, its fur bloody and matted, lay still on the dirt floor. And standing over it, bent low, its back to them, was the figure they had seen earlier. It was tall, its arms and legs strangely long, and the clothes it wore were now clear. They were sewn together. Patches of thick, rough hair, pale, stretched skin, and darker, tougher animal hide were clumsily stitched onto its body. It was wearing animal skins, but shaped in a creepy, almost human way. As it slowly turned around, a low, deep growl rumbled. From its chest, they saw its face. It wasn't a real face. It was a crude mask-like thing made of different animal skins, stretched and stitched together, with two dark, empty holes where eyes should be. But through the small gaps in the stitches, they saw glimpses of what was underneath, not flesh, but dark, shining muscle fibers and a faint, inside red glow, beating slowly. In one of its long, bony hands, it held a rough, bone-handled knife, red with fresh blood. In the other, it held a large piece of fresh, bloody dog fur. It looked from the dead dog to them, tilting its head to one side, like it was thinking about its next meal, or maybe its next layer of skin. The whispers started, not from the creature, but from all around them, from the walls of the ranch, house itself. A low, hissing sound that seemed to slide into their ears. Fresh meat, fresh skin, the harvest begins. Liam, Mia, and Chloe stood frozen, their mouths open in horror, as the skin-wearing creature took a slow, careful step towards them. It moved in a strange, smooth way, like a hunter finally closing in. Noah, however, was no longer beside them. He had simply disappeared. I've continued the story, making the horrors more explicit and revealing the entity's true nature. Noah's disappearance adds immediate tension. "Noah!" Chloe screamed, her voice breaking. Liam grabbed her arm. "We have to go now!" They turned and ran, bursting out of the ranch house. The strange creature, its low growl turning into a wet, hungry snarl, lumbered after them. The night was now completely dark. The vast Texas sky, a blanket of black, with only a few cold stars. Their flashlights bounced wildly, making shadows jump and dance around them. The familiar, sweet, metallic smell of the ranch was now everywhere, thick and sickening. They could hear the creature behind them, its heavy, uneven footsteps pounding the dusty ground. The sound of its roughly stitched skin rubbing together was a horrifying shuffling that grew louder with every step. "Where's the road?" Mia gasped, tripping over a hidden root. Liam pulled her up, his own lungs burning. The dirt track they had driven in on seemed to have vanished. The thorny mesquite bushes now formed a thick, angry wall around them, their branches like grasping claws in the dark. From the dark, thick brush around them, other sounds began to emerge. Faint rustling, soft snaps of twigs, and what sounded like quick scuttling movements. It wasn't just the one creature anymore. The whispers returned, a multitude of them, slithering through the air from every direction. Lost, trapped, join us, warm, fresh. Liam, looking back, saw the main creature was closer. Its shape was clearer now in the dim light of their flashlights. It wasn't just wearing skins. Its own body seemed to be changing, growing, as if the skins were becoming part of it. The faint red glow from beneath its mask-like face pulsed brighter, a terrible heartbeat in the darkness. Suddenly, a loud snap echoed right next to Chloe. A thick, thorny vine, impossibly long and strong, shot out from the dark brush. It wrapped around her ankle, yanking her off her feet. She screamed as she fell, her flashlight rolling away into the darkness. Liam immediately turned, pulling at the vine, but it was like pulling on solid rope. It bristled with thorns that dug into his hands. The creature behind them gained ground, its gurgling snarl closer than ever. "Cut it! Cut it!" Chloe cried, struggling against the vine's relentless pull. Mia, quick thinking, pulled out a small multi-tool, flicking open its blade. She sawed frantically at the thick vine wrapped around Chloe's ankle. The vine was incredibly tough, almost like leather, but after a few frantic cuts, it finally gave way with a wet rip. Chloe scrambled free, her ankle burning, a dark, sticky residue clinging to her skin. But as they started to run again, another sound rose above the rustling and snarls. A low, guttural chuckle. It wasn't from the main creature. It seemed to come from directly behind them, closer than the creature. Itself, they spun around. Nothing was there. But the sweet, metallic smell hit them like a physical wave, and for a fleeting, terrifying moment, Liam thought he saw a shadow detach itself from the dark trunk of a nearby mesquite tree. A shadow that seemed to ripple and then reform into a vaguely human shape before melting back into the darkness. "There's more of them," Mia gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "They're everywhere." The distant shapes in the bushes seemed to shift and sway, not with the wind, but with a slow, deliberate movement. They were surrounded. The whispers intensified, no longer inviting but demanding, growing into a hungry chant. The skin, the memories, the harvest is here. The chant surrounded them, a symphony of unseen horrors. Liam, Mia, and Chloe ran blindly through the thorny brush, the strange shadow figures seemingly moving just beyond their sight, herding them. The sweet, metallic smell was now overwhelming, and the soft, humid air felt thick, as if they were breathing through a veil of wet hides. They burst out of the dense brush and onto a small, elevated clearing. In the center stood an ancient, gnarled oak tree, its branches twisting like skeletal arms against the night sky. Around its base, the earth looked disturbed, and a deep, pulsing reddish glow emanated from cracks in the soil. And leaning against the tree, slumped and motionless, was Noah. "Noah!" Chloe cried, rushing forward. But as she reached him, they saw it. Noah wasn't simply unconscious. His skin, once healthy and vibrant, was now stretched taut and pale, almost translucent. Small, thin, reddish filaments pulsed faintly just beneath his skin, especially around his neck and wrists, connecting him to the earth around the tree. His eyes were wide open, but utterly blank, staring at nothing. And his face was subtly, sickeningly wrong. It was smoothed, almost featureless, with a faint, thin line across his forehead, as if a mask had been removed, leaving an indentation. The main creature, the tall, skin-wearing horror, emerged from the brush behind them, no longer snarling but silent. It moved with a strange, almost reverent grace towards Noah. Its crude, stitched mask seemed to ripple, and the faint red glow from within intensified. Then the creature reached out its long, bony hand towards Noah. But instead of touching him, it reached for its own face. With a wet, tearing sound, it slowly began to peel back the mask-like skin from its own head. What was revealed beneath made Liam and Mia gasp, their minds breaking under the impossible horror. It wasn't flesh or bone or raw muscle. It was a dense, intricate web of dark, fibrous roots, pulsating with that same reddish glow, interwoven and shaped into a skull-like form. Small, pale, glistening nodules nestled within the root structure like strange, unblinking eyes. And from the very center of its face, a single, raw, red orifice gaped, from which the gurgling sound had always come. The entity wasn't wearing animal skins. It was wearing human skins, not as a disguise, but as a trophy, a sign of a completed cycle. The sweet, cloying smell, the faint, flowery scent mixed with blood, wasn't decay. It was the distinct aroma of preserved flesh, slowly being reabsorbed and transformed by the entity. The whispers began again, not from the creature's mouth, but from the root face, directly into their minds, a chorus of voices, layered and ancient, yet chillingly clear. We are the roots, we are the earth, we consume, we grow, and we remembers every face, every scream, every life. As the creature finished peeling back its face, revealing the grotesque root mass beneath, The realization hit Liam with staggering force. The Thorn Ranch wasn't just a place where a skin-wearing entity lived. The ranch itself was the entity. The sprawling, skeletal buildings, the scattered bones, the dry earth, the very roots of the mesquite trees. It was all part of a single, vast, ancient organism that had evolved to survive the harsh Texas landscape by absorbing all life that crossed its path. The local legends weren't about a monster. They were about the land itself becoming the monster. And the plot twist. The shortcut Liam had found online, the obscure forum he'd boasted about, wasn't a random discovery. As the root-faced entity turned its horrific attention fully towards Liam and Mia, they saw it, etched into the dusty, packed earth at the base of the ancient oak tree, glowing with the same internal reddish light as the entity's roots, was a small, crudely drawn symbol, a stick figure, seemingly running, with a directional arrow pointing directly at the Thorn Ranch, and beside it, in faded, almost invisible letters, barely discernible in the ambient glow, was a single horrifying word: welcome. The forum, the shortcut, the very idea of coming here, hadn't been an accident. They hadn't stumbled upon the ranch. They had been lured. The entity, the sentient ranch, had long ago learned how to extend its influence, how to call to the curious, the adventurous, the lost. As the root creature took a step towards them, its movements slow and powerful, Liam looked at Mia, then down at his own hand. A faint, almost imperceptible tingling sensation began on his forearm, near the wrist, and he swore he saw a barely visible reddish-brown line forming beneath his skin, like a tiny emerging root. The skin wearing wasn't a choice for the entity. It was the natural cycle of its growth. The people who vanished in this desolate corner of Texas weren't killed and discarded. They were absorbed, their physical forms and memories becoming part of the vast living organism. Noah's blank face, his smooth skin, was just the first step in his transformation into a new, fleshy layer for the ranch. As the creature lunged, a fresh, powerful gurgle reverberating through the air, Liam and Mia screamed, not just in terror, but in the ultimate horror of understanding. They weren't just escaping a monster. They were trying to escape the very ground beneath their feet, which had been patiently waiting for generations to add their lives to its eternal, horrifying collection. The Outback Road Trip hadn't led them to a house. It had led them to a vast, living predator. And now it was time for them to become part of its unending, terrifying harvest.